Okay, hi, chemists. This is the live session. Today is March 31st, 2020. So, I just wanted to go over what we were talking about. I just wanted to go over what yesterday's experiment and extension activity what we were supposed to get out of it. So, from our experiment with the Alka-Seltzer, changing the temperature, changing the surface area, changing the concentration, and adding this element of stirring or shaking, we should have seen that these four factors all increase the rate of the reaction. So the Alka-Seltzer was able to react quicker as a result of the temperature, surface area, concentration all going up, and then this addition of stirring. Because we're adding all of these, we're adding more collisions between the water and the Alka-Seltzer tablet, causing our reaction to go faster. And then I wanted to also go over this extension activity. So it's asking about aspirin being treated for a heart attack. So obviously that's not going to save someone's life, but it can lessen the impact of the heart attack in the moment. And so it's this question of, should we chew up the aspirin before we take it, or should we just swallow it? What is going to increase the rates of the effect of the aspirin working? So given this article, it tells us here that in researchers in Texas, they asked the respondents, the people that were in the volunteers that were in this research, to take aspirin different ways. So one is just swallowing it with some water. The second one is chewing the tablet for 30 seconds before swallowing it. And then finally, drinking 4 ounces of water with Alka-Seltzer. So each of these methods were tried on an empty stomach, it says. They monitored the blood levels of the aspirin and its active ingredients. And then they also measured they measured the amount of thromboxane, B2, an indicator of platelet activity that drops as platelets are inhibited. So that's basically showing us if how aspirin is working, because that's what aspirin is supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be blocking this platelets from being formed, I guess, or just their activity. And then, so by all three measurements, chewed aspirin worked the fastest. So chewing up the aspirin for 30 seconds before swallowing it is what got the quickest reaction. So the quickest inhibition of these platelets. And then it shows that it only took, what does it say? Only took 5 minutes for chewed aspirin to show the reduced concentration of the thromboxane B2. And then Alka-Seltzer, it took almost 8 minutes, whereas if you just swallowed, it took 12 minutes. So by chewing the aspirin, you are able to cut the amount of time it takes for its effects to be shown by half than if you were just swallowing it. So your question here is, your job was to define, is the data obtained in the lab we just performed, so the Alka-Seltzer lab, where we changed the temperature, the concentration, the surface area, and then added that element of stirring and whatever, to is that consistent with what they found in the experiment? So this experiment talked about chewing up the aspirin versus just swallowing it. So when I think of this, I say, okay, what did we do in our experiment that was similar to this? So we talked about decreasing the surface area. So that's what increasing the surface area, I'm sorry. So increasing the surface area, because by chewing up the aspirin tablet, you're increasing the amount of surface area that comes into contact with either your stomach contents, so in your stomach, or in our cases with the Alka-Seltzer experiment, into contact with the water. So that's what I'm focusing on. I'm not necessarily focusing on temperature, because we're not changing the temperature in the experiment that these researchers in Texas did. We're not talking about the concentration getting increased. We're not talking about they're adding this additional element of stirring or shaking. We're talking about increasing the surface area by chewing it. Hi, Luna.
Hi, Miss.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. So I'm just going over something for chemistry right now.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just recording this just so I can post it on my YouTube. Is that okay?
Yeah. I'll mute myself.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm just going to explain this real quick and then I'll be right back for you. Okay, so basically, this article is just asking us to see if what we found in our Alka-Seltzer tablet experiment is consistent with what they found, and I would say yes, it is, because we found in our experiment that breaking up the Alka-Seltzer tablet caused it to have an increased rate of reaction. So we saw more bubbling happening more quickly. The bubbles became like increased this. They had a larger volume quicker. And similarly, in this lab experiment, it said that the chewed Alka-Seltzer tablet or the chewed aspirin tablet took only 5 minutes to reduce the concentrations of this thromboxane B2 in the system. So it had a heightened effect quicker. So I would say, yes, that is consistent. And I gave a little bit of my evidence, so you guys need to be giving your evidence. You can also use this tablet. Hi, Edgar.
Hello?
How are you? Okay, so I'm going to stop